out. You'll learn so much more about your own health, your well being, and your state of mind. Once you've started on that, the rest gets a little bit easier every day. Now, here is your host, Karin Weary.
Hello and welcome to Shift Happens. I am indeed Karin Weary, your host here at Shift Happens. Thank you for joining in. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and breakthrough life coach who also uses frequency therapy when I work with people. And we will be getting into that because today we are talking about pain. And this is something that so many people suffer from and with, and it gets really hard to live through life. I just had a short little episode where I pulled my hip flexor, and oh my God, I was hobbling around for a couple of days, and that was not fun. I don't like that. There are lots of and then chronic pain, forget about it. There are a lot of people who are suffering with chronic pain. So literally every day, all day, people are going through their life, suffering. And that leads to a lot of other things like depression. I mean, who can have a lot of fun when you're always in pain? And I was reading some statistics from the CDC, and they were saying that about 20% of the population here in the US, which comes out to 50 million people, suffer with pain. And then they were talking about chronic pain. Out of them, 34%, somewhere around there, suffer with chronic pain, and the majority of them are 65 and older. And so I have with me today my amazing, beautiful friend, Caroline Sequin, who really changes people's lives with the work that she does, because she is a licensed massage therapist and she specializes in myofascial release, which is a very particular gentle way of helping people. And so when it comes to pain, um, she is an expert in getting people out of pain. So welcome, Caroline.
Thank you, Karin, for having me. I'm so excited to be back and on the
Yes.
show and here to help people.
Absolutely. That's what we are all about. We are here to make shift happen in people's lives and shift it in a direction that you can be more you. Because when you're in pain, it's really hard to be you. I mean, oh my God, it was so funny because I had done a workout, and then, I apparently was resting too much, letting my hip flexors do too much of the work. And first my left hip flexor was hurting, but it was just a normal hurt and it was kind of sore. And then I did another workout the next day. So then I must have really overdone it and let my right hip flexor take over. And in the middle of the night, and I stretched, and then my left hip felt so much better. In the middle of the night, I woke up and was like, my right hip flexor was like, oh, what just happened here? Yeah. And like I said, that was just a couple of days. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I see that happening quite often in my occupation as a massage therapist. A lot of times people will come to see me last when maybe they should see me first, when they maybe have an injury just like that. And it may not be an injury per se, just maybe an overuse, or you tore it in, and you can develop trigger points. So what a trigger point is, it's a hyper irritated spot in the muscle. So one little point in the muscle that gets really upset at you. And then it gets its friends in on it. So they're like satellite trigger points. And
They're
then they gang
becoming
up
bullies.
on you. Yes, they gang up on you.
Yeah.
So they're little spots that are really upset, and they get their buddies in and they gang up on you, and they impede motion, restrict motion, they cause pain. And that's basically saying, like, they're saying, hey, we need you to address us. And that little spot in the muscle, you can actually feel it. And I can actually feel it in the muscle, and oftentimes it can become a big knot, which is layman's terms for it. Ischemic tissue is kind of what we call it, but a knot. And so a knot in the muscle, and often, it's like we find the pain but look for the source elsewhere, because quite often it's coming from another area and you think it's right where you feel it, and that's not always the case.
Yeah, yeah. And I love how you say that people should come to you probably first, because I was just, this is some years ago, a friend of mine hurt his back, and it was one of those things, picked something up, and I was going to go into physical therapy back in the day. And so I learned that those injuries are never that one time. It's many, not using your body correctly, not using correct body mechanics, lifting things the wrong way, twisting this, that, and the other. And that was just the last thing that just put you over the edge. And I kept telling that person, go to a massage therapist, go to a chiropractor, do that, this, and the other. And he kept going to doctor, 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 doctor. And what do they do? They want to send you to this test, that test, let you pay lots of co-pays, give you some pills. And then finally, he was better. And it's like, you still need to go to the chiropractor and a massage therapist. And he never did. I'm like, okay, so forget about it. You just do you.
Yes, well, the doctors do what they can within their scope of practice.
Yes.
So they don't really touch the muscles. They don't study the muscles. They don't know a thing about trigger points usually. So that's my field. That's what I study.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times they're just working with what they have to work with. So they'll do epidural injections. They send somebody to a pain clinic, and a lot of times they think it's this major issue with the spine, and the findings are that's not always the case. Yeah, maybe somebody's spine looks kind of funny on an X-ray, but there's a lot of people with funny looking spines that have no pain. Uh, so they want to attribute it a lot of times to structure and to spinal issues. But there's muscular issues too. A lot of times it's muscular. So I have even a couple of articles like epidural injections to address sciatica. Like for instance, it says there's a study in 2012 that the conclusion of the study was that epidural injections produce a small improvement in leg pain over the next 3 months. However, by 1 year, there was no clear benefit. Sciatica was just as much of a problem in those who received the epidural injections as those who did not. And so really that's one of the things I deal with, that pain in the butt. Sciatica is just a pain in the butt, or it's a umbrella term that they use. Maybe somebody has low back pain going down the legs, and so without touching the person, they'll diagnose the person as having sciatica or piriformis syndrome. But a lot of times, like I'll do an assessment and find that there's other trigger points involved that are causing that, or it's not even sciatica at all. It could be a very active trigger point in the medial glute, and that one likes to act like sciatica, and it's like a false sciatica. So a lot of times the injections don't help, and actually they'll cause further damage. 10 years down the road, they can cause arthritis. They pull, if you get too many, they can pull nutrients right out of the connective tissue and cause further damage. So they have to be very careful, especially if it's steroids. Very careful with steroids. And then, if they're doing a back injection and an epidural, they're going right in your spine. That's kind of a big deal. If one little move the wrong way, that can cause you just many, many problems. So
Yeah.
go with the easiest solution first.
Right. And who doesn't love to have a massage, for goodness sakes? I mean, I'll take a massage and some warm hands over somebody jabbing me with some needle. Good grief.
Right. And sometimes people do
No-brainer.
need certain things. It depends
Yes.
on the problem. It really
Yes.
depends. So it's great that we have that as a solution as well.
Absolutely.
However, it's not the solution for everyone. And if you start out small, then you can see where you're at. A lot of
Exactly.
times, like say with I study myofascial therapy, and with that you can get fascial restrictions. And also just looking at the body, the hips can be out of alignment, so one hip can be higher, tilted even. That's going to cause a whole host of issues, and it'll go up to the neck, to the shoulders. The shoulders can be off, they'll be uneven. So somebody's walking around crooked all day, what kind of problems do you think that'll cause?
Exactly. And like sitting cross-legged is something that'll do that for sure, right? I mean, which most people
Definitely.
do. Yeah. I untrained myself from doing that. That was hard. But after my car accident a couple of years ago, I was going to the chiropractor and I was always, crooked. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to stop crossing my legs. It was really hard in the beginning, but I made it through.
Oh, definitely. One of the goals that I have is to get those hips in alignment and look at the alignment of somebody and say, okay, where is this really caught up? Like, what is catching? Like within the fascia covers the whole body, and also it's interwoven in every cell. So if you think of a sweater, and if you pull that thread on a sweater, well, it becomes so skewed and it kind of wrecks that whole sweater. Well, that can happen in your body too. So think scar tissue. What does scar tissue is like a spider web, and it kind of pulls on everything and juts out like a spider web.
Mhm.
Um, so a lot of those things can cause pain, and so it's not all in your head. If the doctor's saying, well, you're just going to have to live with it, it's in your head. They're just dismissing you because they don't know the answer. That
Instead of
they don't
referring
know
you.
how to help you, so you must be crazy.
Yeah.
But that's not it's not the truth. I know you Karin too, with the kind of work you do. You do body scan even with
Yeah,
your EMDR therapy, which is just amazing because the body keeps score. The
it does.
body will store emotions, and emotions can arise as like pain in the body even.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sometimes it's a result of an injury, but also maybe, an emotion, a negative emotion that you didn't deal with.
Yeah.
You didn't even know was there. Sometimes we are geniuses and we'll just shove it in our body and forget about it altogether
Yeah.
until it arises, like as
Yeah.
as a symptom.
I can't tell you how many times, because like you said, Caroline, the part of the EMDR process is I'm always asking, where in your body do you feel it? Whenever we have all these different things. And then the last piece is the body scan. And so, and then it's many times I'll have people say, oh, but that's my neck always hurts, for example. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. But just pay attention and we'll do this one thing. And then they'll be surprised, like, oh, oh, that went away. It's like, oh, what happened? So yeah, exactly. There are lots of different ways, muscular, emotional, it's all connected.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I've found that with working with you too. And I thought, oh well, my shoulder just hurts or something. And it turns out it was connected to an emotion, a feeling. Because if you think of, and that's why myofascial release works too, because we're kind of getting into the body through another way of just very subtle work to where you feel very safe. And then those things, it allows the body to release those emotions, allows the body to release those restrictions. And, if you think of when you're a little kid and somebody said something mean to you, it really hurt your feelings, then maybe you start hunching and leaning forward. And you don't realize that subconsciously you've been doing that your whole life because you just don't feel quite good enough because somebody said something to you when you were 5.
Hmm.
And then so if you think of all those fascial restrictions that occur from that hurt emotion, and then the mind and the emotion and the work that you do is so amazing that you can find that as well. It's like we're doing the same thing but different.
Yeah, exactly. And that, if you also think of it, if you think of it, it makes sense that, when something happens, like you said, your body is trying to protect you by constricting. And so, yeah, and then it gets locked in like that. And I think that's how it really happens. And yeah.
Oh, definitely. Then you like on that note, we have the fight or flight response. So a lot of times, especially this year, I don't know anybody who's not even slightly stressed. So your body's in this constant state of fight or flight. Well, there's a muscle that associates with that fight or flight that I do a lot of work on. So it's called the psoas muscle or iliopsoas, which is two muscles, but they're buddies. They hang out together, and it's kind of in the abdomen. So, where do you brace yourself for impact? Where do you, when you're nervous, where do you feel that in your stomach, the butterflies? Or you tighten up right there to brace yourself or to get ready to run because you're in fight or flight. So with flight, you're going to run or you're going to fight. So you're bracing yourself. So maybe your digestive functions aren't working as well. Different things happen with that heightened state of stress and the higher cortisol levels. So now you can't run away. You have to deal with something. You can't fight something to get rid of this. So sometimes you end up eating to deal with the heightened state of cortisol levels over a long period of time will cause you to eat more and get the munchies, and you don't know why. It's like you're kind of eating your feelings. And but those muscles, I work on those muscles and will relieve those muscles, the psoas there, and oh my God, that makes such a difference. Or even working on the diaphragm and releasing the diaphragm, because when you're in that heightened state, you're holding your breath. You're in
Yeah,
that fight or flight, you're tense, you're holding your breath, you're ready for action, but you can't do anything about it.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, as you're talking, I'm ready to schedule an appointment with you, Caroline. All right, when are you going to be here in Florida? Come on.
Right, right. We use the umbrella term of massage, but really it's kind of amazing work that I do in addressing the body in different ways to really get the best results.
And we need it. We sort of think of a massage as a luxury, but it's really part of regular healthcare. And as I just heard over the weekend when I attended this amazing roadshow event that was part of celebrating a year of this particular frequency therapy that Caroline and I both use, being 1 year on the US market, they were saying that self-care is the new healthcare. And that's where what Caroline does, the incredibly important work that she does, I'm telling you, it is not luxury. It is must. We must do this. And just because, again, it's always better when we can get ahead of things rather than wait until, everything's all askew. So, and also I have, when we come back, we're going to go to these couple of messages, but when we come back, I have a really simple tip that can get your digestive tract back online when you are in that fight or flight mode. So it's a really simple and fun exercise, because that's really what happens physiologically when we feel threatened. Then our digestive system system, I can't even talk.
Digestive
Shuts
tract.
down. Thank you. Shuts down, because we don't need it when we had to fight or flee. We just have to try to stay alive. And so, yeah, you want to come back, because this is a fun little quick exercise. And of course, you're going to want to hear more about what Caroline has to say about how to get out of pain without using pharmaceuticals and surgery and all this other big invasive painful stuff that causes more problems. And many times it can be a fairly simple solution. So you'll want to hang in and stick with us when we come back after these couple of messages.
You are listening to Shift Happens with Karin Weary. Do you have a question or comment about today's program? If so, we'd love to hear from you. Call in to the live show at 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. Or send an email to KarinW@insightscounselingcenter.com. Remember that Karin is spelled Karin. Now, back to Shift Happens.
Hello, and thank you for tuning back into Shift Happens. We have some really important information for you today that is really going to shift you out of pain, most likely, when you put this into action. And who does not want to be out of pain? I was just going through my own couple of days of hurting my hip flexor. Oh my God, getting up and down, in and out of a seat. It was a nightmare. So nobody wants that. Nobody needs that. You can't be your full self and be present and do what you're here to do when you're in pain. It really is much, much harder. And one of the things that is actually, FDA approved for here in the US. It's gentle, it's non-invasive, it's frequency therapy. It works on several different levels. Microcurrents, which is how our body naturally, communicates with each other, our cells. And there are people who've had chronic pain who, in a few days of using it, are out of pain. So this is just invaluable. And it's something that I also use when I work with people. I use it for myself. I used it for my family to help heal them, and the healing just really speeds up. And it's not really something that's new. Frequency therapy has been around for centuries. We've just used it in different ways. But this is just a little handheld device that was designed in order to help people have it in their own home, so you don't have to run to the doctor every other minute to deal with these things. And my guest today is my dear close friend, Caroline Sequin, who is a licensed massage therapist. So if you're ever anywhere near where she goes between Michigan and Florida, you want to schedule an appointment and see her, whether or not you're in pain, because she's amazing. So thank you for being a returning guest here on Shift Happens.
Oh, thank you so much, Karen. Yes, my business is Caring Hands Massage Therapy, and I'm located in mid-Michigan and Central Florida, and also online. I can help people online and do self-care sessions and release your fascia sessions. So
Awesome. Even better.
yeah,
So
yeah,
no
I
matter
have
where you
multiple
are.
ways, as well as frequency healing. So
Exactly.
there's multiple ways really that we both have to address pain and discomfort.
Exactly. And before I forget, let me give you that quick little tip on how to get your digestive tract back on board when you've gone into fight or flight. So, because again, when our brain experiences something like, uh-oh, I don't feel good here, whether it's an argument with your spouse or your kid or whatever kind of thing, automatically your digestive tract shuts down. This is where your mouth gets really dry. So now what I want you to do is now imagine that you're holding this big slice of juicy lemon, and it's right there in your hand, and you go ahead and bite into it. Yeah. And what are you noticing right now? You should probably, what are you noticing, Caroline?
Oh, a little bit of saliva starts, your mouth waters and it's like, ooh, this juicy lemon. And then you imagine the sour and
Yeah.
the bite of it.
Exactly. Exactly. And the fact that you start to salivate right there means that your digestive tract is back on board. So it's that simple. And this also shows the power of the mind. You didn't have a lemon in your hand, you just imagined it. And voila, you start salivating.
Oh, definitely. And ooh, tell us more about that, Karen, the powers of the mind with that. It's just amazing that the subconscious and the conscious and how they work together.
Yeah.
And, your attitude is everything and what you think you bring about.
Let me tell you something else, and this was something that I just noticed this Saturday when I was sitting at this event, and it's so beautiful because really the inventor of this device, he's a genius. His name is Markus Schmicke. He's German, and his whole intention is to raise global consciousness. And so, having used this on myself over the past almost year, all of a sudden I was sitting there noticing, because I noticed over the last few weeks how my business has gotten much better, and great things are just coming to me. And because this also works not just on a physical level, but also on an emotional and spiritual level. And so a lot of people, they notice these things, and so all of a sudden I was thinking, holy moly, I wonder if running these frequencies all this time has started to open up my abundance, uh, whatever my abundance piece of my mindset is. And yeah, it's so incredibly powerful.
I think so. Yeah, I think it does have something maybe on a very subtle subconscious level because
Mhm.
I notice when I have my moods, when I'm moody and in a funk, then you start to feel like everything is terrible.
Yep.
Sky's falling, Um, the next thing happens, and it just sets you up for everything's irritating, nothing's going right. And but when I have an attitude of gratitude, when I look around, and even in relationships, I've been experimenting with this of just that telling people how much they mean to me,
Mm.
and just having that affection for that person, even if we have issues, even we may not agree. And it really changes the relationship. It changes how I interact in that relationship. And it's not necessarily about the other person. It's about me, how I interact, my attitude
Yeah.
uh, towards that person, and my attitude towards even my vehicle, my attitude towards, you have relationship with your things.
Yeah.
And I always tell my vehicle how much I love it and how it's great. It's so good for me. And let me tell you, this thing has a lot of miles on it. It's paid for. And it's like it has an attitude of service for me. As
Yeah.
well as I take care of it. I mean, like
Yes.
your body, but try that with yourself, your body, your skin when you're putting on skincare. Tell yourself how beautiful you are.
Mm.
Think of how much you change your relationship with yourself. So it's just mind blowing on the multiple different levels you can get into with that.
Absolutely, 100%. And one of the stories that one of the speakers was saying how he was all business when he first started with this. And then 3 months in, because of course he was running frequencies on himself, all of a sudden he started realizing it was not so much about business anymore. His intuition started to be better. And now it was more about connecting with people and what it does for people. And so his whole mindset changed, and it was on this subtle level because it also works on our bioenergetic field. So it's just so beautiful. It really is something that truly is changing the world, on so many levels. So
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. I know just for myself in running, like you're talking about the bioenergetic, uh, that your aura
yeah.
essentially is your aura.
Yep.
If you think people are crazy talking about the aura, that's okay. Um, just think of when you walk in a room and somebody is angry, you can kind of feel it and you tend to leave that person alone. When somebody's happy and they're inviting, you tend to gravitate towards that person, right? So, well, there's energy involved there. You can feel it. You don't know why, maybe it's so subtle you don't even realize that you do that, but you pick up on those little tiny subtle clues. And
Absolutely.
I noticed firsthand watching too, on my aura, how it every time I ran the scan, different things improved. And it's like it started out here on certain things, and then it went up into where my aura and my chakras were improving. And I was like, oh, wow, it does work, because I was documenting and keeping track of that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And every day is different. So your energy levels are going to be different. But and another thing that I learned here, which this is really huge, is that because this particular device has the full range of frequencies, 144,000 frequencies, that this also has a frequency of stem cells, which means that that you can work on your stem cells as well. So that's absolutely phenomenal. What that's with the revitalization program. So it's just truly revitalizing your cells. And-
I love that. And no
yeah,
injections.
exactly. Oh my God. And you don't have to pay tens of thousands of dollars for it either and travel to another country. I mean, I like to travel to other countries, but not necessarily to do that kind of stuff.
I'd rather be on vacation, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go explore. Yeah. So what are some other things that you do to help people with pain? Like what are do you find certain patterns of behaviors or things that have gotten people to the pain that maybe could have been prevented?
Hmm. Yeah, a lot of things I think are overused, like we were talking about. overused, using the body wrong, maybe not being as physically active, or everybody's sitting now, we're Zooming, we're working from home. So you don't have the right ergonomics with your desk and your chair and computer. Or, also now your hips have become let's see, unlike your feet, it used to be your feet were the foundation of your body. Now, because everybody's sitting so much, the hips are the foundation of the body. So you're compressing your spine, all the muscles tighten right up in your core that will refer pain into your low back. So maybe if you're having low back pain, all those muscles are involved and causing you to feel pain in your low back, which maybe it's your core muscles that are too tight and pulling on the low back muscles. So those kind of things have happened. But also I've noticed, maybe more so in myself, because I feel it's good to be in tune with your own body. So myself, I felt grief in my neck, and I was storing it in my neck and everything. And maybe that had a lot to do with the neck pain that I was going through. Uh, or like in your lungs, grief can be stored in your lungs, on that whole emotional level. So it's interesting with some of the work that I do, if you end up having an emotional release, that what kind of emotions come out of that emotion release? What kind of pain is released with that? I've had people say, yeah, that doesn't bother me anymore. Or I've had even myself, certain things just don't bother me anymore. And where I dealt with them for years. And just from myofascial release and releasing the emotion tied to it, the fascial restriction, holding everything together and keeping you stuck there and no flow to that. And it's just amazing, just mind blowing. Or even like a client that I had, she was dealing, now this wasn't necessarily a pain issue, but she was dealing with an incontinence issue. And I had no idea that she had dealt with this. And it wasn't until I released fascia in her abdomen, released that tissue that was just so tight there, that that release, that problem that she has not had in like 3 years now.
Wow.
Because I check on her, I'm like, hey, you remember that thing that you were dealing with, of which we didn't talk about because nobody talks about that. I'm like, are you still doing good? She's like, yeah, I haven't had a problem since.
Wow. That's incredible.
And that wasn't necessarily a pain issue, but with women and having babies and all these different things that we have, that throws off a lot of that. So if you imagine this kind of work can keep somebody from going to the urinary doctor and actually help alleviate those symptoms and get somebody living their fullest life again.
Yeah, because that's embarrassing. Nobody wants to have incontinence issues, and so I have heard a lot of women, especially who have multiple children, who you know things start almost falling out of the body, because it's a lot of weight and stuff going on in there. Uh,
Yeah, there's been a lot of shifts, a lot
yeah.
of trauma. I mean, it's no easy job to carry a baby or
Nope.
even give birth and so on. There's a lot of things that happen and a lot of things that happen to get it back right.
Yeah, I get all shifted around. I remember after I had my son and I was laying in obviously I got tired of laying on my back. So this was probably, I don't know, hours later. I was kind of out of it, not because I had been on drugs. I was all natural. And I tried to roll over on my side and it felt like all my intestines were like going around, slopping around in there. I was like, oh, I quickly went back on my back. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna move. All my intestines are gonna get all tangled up in there.
All right. Yep.
Weird.
So from that you can get just fascial restrictions and it can cause issues of like incontinence and issues of just not feeling quite right.
Yeah.
Something, like pain in your back that you've had ever since. I've come across women that have dealt with this. They've always had this pain ever since they gave birth. It's never resolved.
Yeah.
And so looking at them from the myofascial perspective, it's like, well, you're kind of like you're tilted. You have one hip higher than the other. You kind of one may be rotated forward. It's like no wonder why you're having that issue.
Yeah. And
So
then
let's work that out.
yeah, and then I heard, and I never heard of this until after I had my son, and again, I didn't have the epidural, but so glad after hearing the other people, and I didn't need it. How they had problems with where they had their epidural. This is like, wow, nobody tells you that before.
Right. Well, and even injections, throughout life, sometimes we end up needing an injection in our rear end or something like that. Well, guess what? That can build up a trigger point. And then so you've always had a pain in your rear end in that one particular spot, and that's the spot where they do the intramuscular injections.
Yeah,
It's like, well,
pain in the ass. Let's just say it.
I was trying to put it nicely. Yes.
I'm gonna say it for you because it's just hanging out there. We need to get it out. Release
Definitely,
that throat
definitely.
chakra. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to our last set of messages, but as you can tell, Caroline has a lot of good information for you. So you definitely want to tune back in just a couple of minutes.
With Karen Weary. Do you have a question or comment about today's program? If so, we'd love to hear from you. Call in to the live show at 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. Or send an email to KarenW@insightscounselingcenter.com. Remember that Karen is spelled Karin. Now, back to Shift Happens.
Hello and welcome back to Shift Happens. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Karen Weary, licensed marriage and family therapist and breakthrough life coach. And one of the things that I use as part of my repertoire of helping people is frequency therapy, which is incredible at helping people with pain and as well as multiple, emotional things. There are people who have kids with autism, and when they've run the programs on them, that they are doing better, and it just is beautiful to watch and hear all the testimonials of people who have this and use this in their daily practice. Like a month ago, my son, he cut his finger. And it was a deep, wide cut. Oh, I know. I was like, oh, but I didn't want to take him to the hospital and go through all that and whatnot. I was like, I think we're going to be okay. and so, of course, what did I do? I was running frequencies on him for every day. And I am not, I'm a therapist. I don't do that physical stuff. So my neighbor, who's a retired nurse, she saw it. Now it's been a month, and when she looked at it, it's like, wow, that looks really beautiful. That's healing so nicely. It's healing from the inside out, and there's no red around the edge. And she was really impressed with how this was healing. And so it's just incredible what this does. My guest today is my beautiful, wonderful friend who does so much to help people in so many ways. She is a licensed massage therapist, and she is out of Michigan and Florida. She's all over the place, but she is also available to provide self-care sessions online. So it doesn't matter where you are. She's here to help.
Yeah, thank you for that, Karen. Yes, my name is Caroline Sequin. I'm with Caring Hands Massage Therapy, and I can meet you anywhere. We can make this happen. Well, let's get you feeling your best.
That's right. That's right. And one of the things I want to reiterate is that, I myself used to come from the standpoint that massages are a luxury, but in reality, it is such a huge part of just self-care and maintenance, and you can, it feels so amazing. And just being able to get all that, we're more stressed than we often realize. And I can feel it in my shoulders. A lot of people have this up in their shoulders, all the tension from being on computers and phones, and we get hunched over in the way, that we sit. So yeah, I do a lot of, try to do the contrast and spread my shoulders back.
Oh,
Um,
that's perfect, Karin.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
definitely
feels
do that.
good. Yeah.
Connect with your body, release. You're like, hold on, where do I feel tight? Where do I feel tense? Well, what's going on with me? Am I feeling a little stressed? And hold on, roll your shoulders, open up, open up your chest. That's really good, especially we're like this at the computer and you don't realize you're so involved in that task
Yeah.
that you try to get as close as possible, or you're
Exactly.
stressed and you're hunched over.
Especially when you have eyeballs like I do. And my glasses, they only work for one way and not the other, and then it's a pain in the ass. And a couple of things that I do personally is that, first of all, I'll roll my shoulders back and stretch out. That I used to dance, so I got that. Thank goodness that the posture, and I know how to do that. But another thing, two other things to do is I'll get in the door frame and then lean forward with my arms on the door frame and get that nice chest stretch and do the contrast, or lay on the bed and put my arms over my head. It's like, oh, such a nice, it feels so good.
Well,
Yeah.
that's perfect, Card. And that's exactly what I tell people to do.
Mm,
And because I'll notice if somebody's kind of hunched, their shoulders are forward, these
yeah.
the pec muscles, all the chest muscles are contracted
Mm,
and pulling the person forward. And they're like, well, I have bad posture. And it's like, well, maybe you do, but also your muscles are involved and they're tightening. So why you feel you can't sit up straight are is because all those muscles are so tight.
yeah.
So you're trying to correct it, but sometimes, they're just pulling, they're pulling you, they're just too tight. They need to be addressed. And like you mentioned, massage, often people think of it as a luxury, but if you think of it, I'll do an hour increments of time of that's 1 hour dedicated to you solely, to your whole body, to
Mm,
where do you feel tension, where do you hurt, where, or just stress relief. Sometimes you
mhm.
just need that worked out of just that hour of laying there of peacefulness and having somebody just care for you that much and dedicate their time for you that whole entire hour. There's something so special and amazing about that. And especially with like maybe our people that don't have a significant other in their life, or not a lot of family, they're not getting a lot of body touch. Massage is so great for that because we're releasing oxytocin, we're releasing, that's your bonding chemical, serotonin, all these hormones are released to lower stress levels, lower even your blood pressure levels, and everything just self-regulates.
Mm. And the when we get to where we can manage stress, that's really the start of preventing chronic illnesses, because chronic stress that's not managed leads to inflammation, and the inflammation leads to chronic illnesses, diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, cognitive disorders, you name it, certain cancers even. And this is something that's research has shown. So really, truly, uh all of these things that Caroline was just mentioning is so incredibly powerful and important to maintain good health. And I love how you also address that people think they just, certain things happen and they just accept it. Oh, I just have bad body posture. What are you talking about? No, no, where's your fight mode? You don't just accept that. It's all about you, like you said, strengthen your muscles, do the counter stretches and all that. It doesn't just happen. Our body, our bodies are designed to move. We weren't designed to just sit and just sit.
Right, right. Well, if you think about your car, and on occasion we need alignment for the car, depending on how bad the roads are where you're driving. or if you run over a lot of curbs or potholes or something, and so sometimes you just have to take your car in for an alignment. It's not going to fix itself. You have
Right.
to actually go have somebody mechanically set the tires right again. And so it will drive straight. Well, your body's the same way.
Yeah.
You have to feed it the right foods. If you feed your body the right foods, chances are your mood will be better. If you get enough sleep, if you address maybe past traumas and everything, that's really the what you do, Karin, is
Yeah.
is you help people address those traumas, things that happened that you had no control over, or how you're handling things and coping, and all of those things you'll hide and stuff in your body too.
Mhm.
uh, if you address those, man, you can have better health, you can feel better. And sometimes it's like you don't even realize it's associated with the pain that you're feeling.
Absolutely.
It's just crazy. Now, it's not to say that everything's in your head, that you're crazy. That's not the case at all. It's just we're magnificent creatures, and we are so we're we operate on such a level of genius that you're you'll adapt and get through so many things, and you'll forget about it. You'll put it off to the side in the back of your mind, and you'll adapt. Even your body will adapt to your hips being higher than the other. You just learn how to move with whatever is going on. You're like, well, I still need to move, I still need to function. And your body will quit crying at you until it's like the straw that broke the camel's back, and it's like, oh my God, this is major now. So you're you're just a genius in adapting, but you don't have to adapt and just put up with it. You can address these things and have a better life, have a better quality of life, and feel better in your body.
Absolutely. And this is the vessel that we've been given, and you know that that's so important for us to take care of, so that we don't have to think about it, because when you're well, you don't even think about the fact that you have a body. You just do. And then you free up a space and energy to really tap into your genius, your skills, your talents, your why you're here, your purpose, creating meaning, as opposed to being crippled somewhere in pain, whether it's emotional or physical. Because there's also that, wherein Carolyn was talking about, old issues that are there that haven't been resolved. And many times, like she said, we don't even realize that that's where it's coming from. But people who tend to get really prickly and angry and irritated, it's usually not very much to do with what's going on now. It's usually old stuff that's being triggered, So yeah. Well, Caroline, what would be uh, one thing that you think is super impactful for that people can do, or that you do for people? Give you a couple options.
Hmm. Just sometimes just getting that first session, sometimes just getting that first session of body work, because with that, then we can, like I do an assessment with somebody, talking to them, finding out what's going on, looking at their body, uh, or even a phone consultation. Say, you can't see me in person. A phone consultation. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what's going on, so I can give you pointers and things that you can do for yourself to address those things, or where to go. Very often body work is indicative, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes there's contraindications. There's reasons why you can't receive a massage. Uh, there's very few, but there are reasons. And so it's always good to talk, have a consultation, figure out, okay, where do we go from here? How can I most help you? And, maybe what I do is not going to help you. Maybe you need to see somebody else. And I love to refer you to see somebody else and give you a good guidance and direction. So I like to start out just with the conversation. What's going
Yeah.
on? How can I
Yeah.
help you?
That's beautiful. And you can find Caroline Sequin at caringhandsmassagetherapy.com, right?
Yep, it's caring-hands.massagetherapy.com.
Gotcha. And I will post the link here. And so otherwise, you can always contact us, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and we will have all of our contact information for you so that you can reach out and get your body work or self-care session with Caroline Sequin. And that you can, after doing that, really go out and shine your beautiful inner light. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Caroline, for sharing your genius with us and the audience today.
Oh, thank you so much, Karen. It's been great. I hope this has helped everyone. And, if you have questions, let us know.
All right.